Hey, it's Adam with the Backpack Theory Podcast, where we unpack past experiences to help define a better future. And today we're going to be unpacking how adversity strengthens character. My guest today has the same last as me, ironically enough, spelled the exact same way. Mr. Alex Coury is here with us. He is an actor, stand-up comedian, business owner and entrepreneur with Coury Consulting, as well as has a family business of a bunch of boutique hotels nationwide. Alex, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm so glad. We've literally talked about this. It's because we actually met in a previous business role, I think, where I was like running a service business and I was trying to sell you carpet cleaning or something. I think was the first time we crossed paths at like the Ambassador Hotel here in Oklahoma City, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was like 2014. I remember we got together at the O Bar. We sat down for some lunch, and here we are 10 years later doing a podcast together.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's absolutely nuts. Dude, I struggle sometimes with imposter syndrome whenever I do these things. Like, do you ever struggle with that? Like, being a stand-up comedian, an actor?
Sometimes, yeah. But I always just try to remember that this is, I feel, the calling that I've been given by God, and to trust the gifts and the purpose that you feel like you were put on this earth to do and to help people. So yeah, every now and then, but I just try and continue to like pray and manifest for the strength to know that I'm where I'm supposed to be.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Just bringing it into the presence.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And so are y'all Lebanese then?
We are Lebanese. Yeah. My dad is about 50. I'm a quarter. So my great grandparents came over here, probably similar to yours. I'm not sure, but
Same thing.
we had, obviously Coury spelled a little differently in Lebanon.
Was it Khou?
Khouri or something like
It's
that.
Y. So
Y.
Coury.
Coury.
Yeah.
One of the most prominent, if not the most prominent last names in Lebanon. It means priest.
Does it really?
Yeah, it means priest.
I just learned something new today. It's great. So I love podcasts. Ask questions.
Yeah.
You learn new things that you never knew before.
Absolutely. Adam Coury, Alex Coury.
It's awesome.
Yeah, not related, but brothers.
Yeah, dude. It's funny because there's a lot of Courys in Oklahoma. There's the Courys, the Nafies. Whenever you
spelled this in.
It's the same way.
Yeah.
Always, whenever you have a conversation with them, they're always like, "Oh, that's my cousin. My cousin." And it's like distantly, somehow we definitely are. So we probably are down the line somewhere.
That sounds right. Yeah.
I mean,
and I love how hospitable every time you meet a Coury. Like in Lebanese in general, I feel like the moment that you realize that you're Lebanese, it's like connect on this deeper level. I feel Lebanese heritage is very hospitable. I feel like that's part of their culture. So they're very inviting. They're very warm people.
Yeah, dude. Definitely. I feel like my parents taught me that. Like anytime I have someone over to the house, I try to get something special prepared for them with a story behind it, make them feel warmed. Like
you brought several great options out here, some anti-aging water and some coffee to stimulate the mind.
Absolutely, dude. In a little bit. Sometimes I overstimulate a little bit whenever it comes to caffeine. That's just part of it. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about, you do a couple different things.
Yeah.
You tell us about let's talk about family business first. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Coury Consulting. Like what exactly is that like? What are your roles?
Okay. First, family business is called Coury Hospitality.
Okay.
And so really my dad started this company, and when he first started in business, he was a realtor in Tulsa. So he was a commercial real estate guy. He would buy up office buildings and then sell them or lease them out to people. And then he started building housing developments and selling homes. But then our family opened up our first hotel in 1999. So I was 8 years old. And I remember we would all go over there. I would be sweeping the floor when we were putting this together, like acting like I was being a part of opening it. But it was very special for our whole family. And we were all very much involved and excited for that first hotel that we had opened.
And what was that first hotel? Where was it?
It's the Ambassador Hotel in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so it used to be like an old oil apartment building where all these very like rich oil guys would live and stay. And then for a year, I think in the 70s, it got shut down. It was no longer in service. And then we bought it and renovated it and opened it in 1999. And so I guess my first job officially with that company was nearly 20 years ago as a dishwasher. And I worked almost all the positions: server assistant, busser, valet, bellman, front desk, housekeeping, sales manager, and then and then I my dad asked me in 2013, we were about to open up a new ambassador in Oklahoma City,
Mm.
and he wanted me to be a sales manager there. So I did that for a year, and then I moved to the executive team where I became the head of quality assurance. So now what I do there is I'm the vice president of quality assurance and education.
Nice.
And so I've been working as an executive there for 10 years. And now we have 15 hotels in 9 states, and we're about to double in size.
Dude, that's insane. That's so cool. I love, number one, it's ironic that we were literally talking about how hospitable Coury's are, and then literally talking about the fact that your dad got into the hotel business.
Yeah.
I love the fact that your dad did something that he didn't have to do, which
Yeah.
I really think speaks to what we're talking about, adversity, and like how adversity strengthens your character. And he put you in the fire.
Yeah.
Whenever it came to being a dishwasher, he didn't put you in the top role. He made
No.
you work for it. My dad, I'll never forget. So I went to a private Christian school.
Mm-hmm.
All the kids at the Christian school had these nice cars, all these things. I remember going, and I was homeschooled leading up to this. And my dad always made us work. Like, we always had chores in order to make money. Like, it was never just handed to us.
Yeah.
And I hated, not hated, I strongly just did not understand why my dad did that.
Yeah.
But I remember he made me, whenever I wanted my first car, he made me buy my first car from him in finance.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
made me finance it
Yeah.
from him. And he was like, if you really want a car, like, this is the real world. This is how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And for years, I was always like so frustrated. But now sitting on the other side, like that adversity, like
It's a
that,
valuable lesson.
extremely valuable. And it creates a lot of resilience in your life.
Absolutely.
And we look back on that at our parents, and we didn't understand why they were
Yeah.
doing that to us. And then, like, you get older, you're like, oh man, like, there's so much
That's
wisdom.
the wisdom that they had behind it. They realized that putting you through the fire, nothing worth doing in life is easy. The hard is what makes it great. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Dude, it's the journey, not the destination.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
So why don't you, that's the hospitality side. That's
Yes.
cool. And I know you've got a business partner in the hospitality side, or in
I do.
or in the consulting side.
I do. I have my own business that I've created through a lot of the services that I've learned with my role in the family company. And I'm partnered with Yosuke Shingu.
Mhm.
We own Coury Consulting, which is a hospitality specialist company, a consulting company where we help companies grow through really 4 main pillars, which is training, marketing, branding, and quality assurance.
Mm.
Companies can use all those services. They can use one or a couple, but yeah, we'll create these really proprietary, unique, progressive training videos, or just sometimes branding content that has to do with culture, and we'll educate different companies through these educational training videos. And then we obviously do branding and marketing. And as quality assurance, I'll go into a hotel and I'll inspect it using whatever services or standards that they use, whether it be Marriott or Hilton, or maybe they have their own proprietary internal standards, but I'll go through with a checklist and look at cleanliness, condition, and service as a whole.
Dude, that's so cool. I love it. I love the 4 pillars. I love the fact that you break that down. I also love the fact that I've seen a lot of your videos whenever it comes to that you've created for those trainings. And I think that's beautiful that you also do acting and stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So, like, how did that, hey, you were a sales manager in 2013, right? So how did that pivot out of being, like, when did when did that come about?
Yeah. Like, the acting has always been, I think, one of my biggest passions.
Okay.
Storytelling. I just love making people smile, and freeing people from concern is just something that really I feel like is part of my purpose. And I feel like I've been able to do that through comedy and entertaining. And it's not just comedy that I'm passionate about, but just even dramatic acting, just storytelling and getting into characters. I think the more that you empathize with other people, I feel like the more you actually learn about yourself.
Mm.
When you step out of your own shoes and look at sometimes life through somebody else's eyes, you can really learn a lot about yourself too. And it's very therapeutic. But I think I first got into acting. I did some plays in elementary, and then I really got into it in high school when I started taking theater, and I was very serious about that, and I took some improv classes in high school and fell in love with improv. But my first actual acting gig was on the Disney Channel in 2001. Yeah, I was 10 years old. I don't know if you ever heard of the show called Bug Juice. It was basically like the real world for kids at camp. So they would like it was almost it was very they would film real life experiences at camp, but it was sometimes very, I feel like, dramatic. Like they would add to the drama of camp life because obviously they wanted to sell a TV show.
Right.
But no, it was fun. So they would film you, and there was multiple seasons of that. I was only on one. I went to this camp called Brush Ranch Camp, and I had been going there since I was probably 7 years old. And one year, the Disney Channel came to shoot their show Bug Juice, and they made me one of the characters that they were following around.
That's so cool, dude.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Like at a very young age, like you were exposed to something you're so passionate about now. And how does, so I know you do stand up comedy and stuff and you do acting. And you're an entrepreneur. There's a lot of pressure in related to that, right? Like especially the comedy thing, standing up in front of people and just letting it all out. How do you deal with some of that stuff?
That's a great question. I think I'll work with people to really work on myself.
Right.
I think in order to be the best version of yourself, you have to work on you.
Right.
And so I think the more you dive in and figure out what makes you tick, what you're passionate about, what moves you forward, I think that gets rid of a lot of the doubt. And like the fact that I've been doing this for so long, I think lets me realize that this is my purpose, and I'm lucky to have found it at a very young age. And I just feel like improv to me is when you get good at improv, it helps you with life in general. That's why I love it. I think it helps you stay in the moment. It helps you yes and with people. It helps you just be agile and be on your toes. So to me, in a way, like acting is part of like life. You also learn to understand yourself. Improv, you learn how to work with other people and just give and take. And I think that's so important. But yeah, I think to prepare myself for stand up, I just exercising, I think is like really important before a show. It just gets gets you like really focused and gets your adrenaline and your endorphins up and things like that.
I think that's great, dude. Yeah, I was telling you actually before, it was funny, like Alex was on his way over here and I was like, I'm going to get like a 10-minute run in real quick. I really encourage people before they come on the podcast to, if you can exercise, do some push-ups, just something, or even if you are like even if you're stepping into like a job or something, like getting that exercise in is so important because it unlocks parts of your brain. It really creates this co-creative environment.
100%.
And I love what you said about improv because, dude, it's especially in society today, we're so disconnected.
Yeah.
And so having those co-creative conversations to achieve a common goal
Absolutely.
creates so much oxytocin. And like whenever you're stepping on a stage, like there's a lot of cortisol, I'm sure, could potentially be built up in that moment.
100%.
Because you have a lot of fear, you have a lot of anxiety. Now, a certain level of cortisol is extremely healthy, right? Like you need some of those receptors.
Yeah.
But like having those co-creative conversations going into it and working together, like you're just creating this oxytocin environment. And I think that's really cool.
100%. Yeah, I think that exercise in general before any like big meeting, any big event, I just, like you said, it just stimulates the body and gets you in the best position to optimize to be at your best, to really optimize your performance in anything that you do. And then improv, whenever I'm in class, like I go to the Groundlings in Hollywood, which is one of the most prestigious improv troops that there is. Like Will Ferrell came out of it, Melissa McCarthy, just a lot of really heavy hitters, and they pull a lot of people out of there that end up going on SNL. So that's like really where they recruit people. And that's a dream of mine, is like SNL. So I've been at the Groundling since 2018. I'm at the final level there. I'm at the advanced lab class. So now you're writing sketches to prepare you. So hopefully what they'll do is they'll pull you onto the company and you'll be performing there every weekend.
Oh, wow.
And casting directors go there, people to recruit, agents. And so hopefully it's a great medium to really put yourself out there. It's like the actor's medium.
Dude, that's really cool. Yeah, it's fascinating, just the world of comedy. I don't think that people understand just acting and everything, like how much effort goes into it behind the scenes, like the journey that leads to actually getting a breakthrough. I think it's like there's this massive list of all these people that never really hit it. Like Morgan Freeman, I think never had like his first major role until he was how
Right.
old?
He's probably like 50.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson, he also was somebody that probably didn't make it till his late 40s,
Yeah.
early 50s. Bryan Cranston, he didn't really hit till he was in his 40s.
I did love Malcolm in the
Malcolm,
Oh, dude.
yeah, Breaking Bad.
You broke out.
Yes.
It's what's fascinating. Before we came on, I was reading about what is it, the Laugh Factory.
Yeah.
And like they actually in 2014, because comedians are very interesting. Like it's the only job, like sales and that are very common. It's the only job where you're going to get instant reactions and instant moments of whether you're hitting or not.
Yep.
And you can have some bad shows in a row. Like you can get on a streak. And so they hired her name is Dr. Tabori. And they actually hired her to be a resident psychologist for the comedians there because they were dealing with so much anxiety. And she describes it as the hardest entertainment job in Hollywood.
That's great. Yeah, I love that they do that. And it is, I think, putting yourself out there and trying to make a room full of strangers laugh in any situation is you're stepping outside of your comfort zone. I do think it is one of the hardest, if not the hardest thing to do, especially like in a place like LA or New York, where there's a lot of heavy hitters and everybody's very discerning, and you're around a lot of other comedians who are, I'm the funny guy. What is this guy bringing to the table? So and I think, yeah, you do gotta push through that. The thing about comedy is you can have your sets that are going to hit, that you've polished, you've locked down, like you got it. But at the same time, in order to continue to grow and be successful in anything, you have to continue to step outside your comfort zone, which is why I think it's great they have a therapist like on staff, because you're going to try new content. And in order to succeed, you got to be comfortable with sometimes not everything's going to be your biggest hit, or some things might not be funny and you might cut it all together, or some things might need to continue. Sometimes it can take weeks or months or even years to find one, like to figure out how to put together this idea, this premise of a joke and really make it stick and land. Sometimes they come easier, but I know I was watching comedians in cars getting coffee, and Jerry Seinfeld, who's notably one of the best comedians out there, he really helped carve out like what today's like stand-up comedy looks like. But even he says he has spent years sometimes perfecting a joke.
And dude, that's where you talk about the topic, like how adversity strengthens character. Dude, that's a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
That's a lot of inner dialogue. That's a lot of false narratives that's very easy to fall into. Have you seen Phil Stutz? Stutz with Jonah Hill and Phil Stutz?
I have.
On Netflix. So Jonah Hill did this very interesting, and Jonah Hill's an interesting character.
Yeah.
They did a very interesting interview where he interviewed his psychologists.
Oh, you know what? I have seen parts of that.
It's really good. And so I went down a rabbit hole and read Phil Stutz, The Tools, like his book. And he talks a lot about these different tools because Phil Stutz helps a lot of different celebrities in Hollywood overcome a lot of these things and a lot of these narratives and a lot of this pressure because dude, you can hit a hot run and you're so public facing.
Yeah.
Like you're so public facing, dude. Yeah. You can get, it's so hard. I know at times, like, and everybody in their dream, like everybody wants to be famous, right? Everybody in there, or a lot of people, not everybody, anybody who goes into things like they're like, oh man, I wish I could be recognized. And then you get to a point to where it's, you don't even want to go out into public anymore because everybody knows you. Like
exactly.
It's a lot of stress.
Yeah. I think sometimes having that anonymity is actually becomes desirable. At first, you want notoriety,
Yeah,
and
that's good.
you're like, man, I want to be recognized. And then when you get to that level, I think people are like, man, I just want to be able to live my life and go out and have peace without being bombarded or have these
Mm,
expectations of being this person, this
right.
kind of character that maybe you've created like publicly that people expect to see. I'm just enjoying the journey right now because that's not I think that used to be a goal of mine, but now just doing the work and doing what you love and even just going to a show, and if you can make a few people smile and laugh and have a great night, then I feel like I'm doing my purpose.
Now that's beautiful. That's freaking beautiful because you're right. It's about the one person. Dude, I heard this guy talk about it was either comedy or it was a speech. And he was talking about looking out over the crowd. And he was like, if there's one person that's not laughing or there's one person that's not standing, it was a performer, it was a musician.
Yeah.
He's like, that's the person I'm going to sing.
Yeah.
It's that one person that I'm going to connect to. All the other people that are laughing, it's that one person because that's the person that needs it the most.
Exactly. I agree. What I try and do too, because you asked how I prepare for that, is whenever I get on stage, I really try and remember this is about them. Like I want this is really their experience. I want
Mhm.
like sometimes I think as entertainers, we're like, oh, this is about me. But no, like if your goal is to make people, for me, free them from concern, make them smile, make them enjoy themselves. This is as much, if not more, about them than it is me, which takes a lot of the pressure off. If I'm just like, hey, I want them to have a good time. It helps me get out of my head and just relax and just be present and just not get too nervous.
I love that,
Yeah.
dude. And it wasn't always that way for you, though. I know that like you had a lot of pressure. And so I want to wind back a little bit whenever it comes to your life. And I know that whenever we first had our conversation, we were talking about 2022.
Yeah.
You had a lot going on. You were going through a tumultuous time. Let's just dive back a little bit into Alex's past and let's look at what's going on in that 2022 period, especially around August, I believe, it's where you hit this wake up call.
Yeah. So in 2022, there's a lot of pressure with trying to juggle many different a- avenues when it comes to being an entrepreneur.
Right.
The family business can be very political, and there's a lot of pressure trying to attain the level of success that you want to see as an entertainer and the business that I've started. But I was probably going out more, probably trying to find just love in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably go I don't even go out to the bars anymore, but
Right.
sometimes I would go out. I'd wanna go dance and blow off steam, and it seemed fun in the moment, and now looking back, I just feel so much more like working on yourself truly is what's gonna find happiness, and I think in the moment, you distract yourself from what's what you really need to be focusing on. I think it's that work is hard, it's challenging, so it's easy to step out and distract yourself with dancing or drinking or what have you, but I had broken up with my girlfriend, and I went through this period where I felt like I had a lot of the things that I had been always wanting.
Mm,
Like I was in living in California by the ocean.
mhm.
I'm still an executive high level executive for a family company, but I just felt lost and lonely, and I realized that I think all great people in life, if you're gonna become great, you have to go through adversity. I think going through challenges and going through the fire is what's gonna make you more resilient coming out on the other side. So anytime I've ever hit in a low or maybe hitting rock bottom, I've always known that I'm gonna come out of it stronger, but I realize it takes pulling yourself up to the bootstraps and really doing the work. In my childhood, I had always done some therapy here and there, and I always enjoyed it. I felt like it was really good connecting with others and yourself and really digging through what makes you. but I got into therapy again after many years, and so I've been doing that for a couple years now, and it just really got me centered and focused. I stopped smoking pot occasionally, and I don't do that at all anymore, and quit drinking, and,
Good job, dude.
thank you, thank you. Yeah,
I
you
don't
don't
drink
drink either.
either.
Yeah.
No.
And, it just not that I'm judging anybody who does. This is all like a personal
Yeah,
journey and stuff.
absolutely.
For me, I just found more focus, and I found more like I would take things more in stride.
Mm,
I could just handle there is a lot of when you have a lot of balls in the air that you're juggling, um, it can be stressful. And so I feel I'm not that I'm old, but I'm not getting any younger.
mm,
And so I was like, if I really want to be as successful as I envision, I have to give myself the best fighting chance possible. And alcohol, I'm sure you're aware of this too. It doesn't really have any health benefits to you at the end of
none.
the day. Yeah, none.
Literally has none. And dude, you said a couple things in there that I want to address. First and foremost, you said that I had achieved all the things that I thought I wanted. It's so hard, dude. Alex, it's so hard
Yeah,
because we're told our entire lives in the world that we live in that things outside of ourselves is the secret to happiness.
right.
We're told that you're
Yep.
never going to be good enough until you have the house.
It's the American dream.
You're never going to be good enough until you have the perfect situation. You're
Right.
never going to be good enough until you have everything that the world tells you that you should have.
Yep.
And it's so hard whenever you have people in your life that expect you to live up to that expectations. And sometimes
Exactly.
it just gets to the point to where you've distracted and you've distracted and
Yeah.
you found it and you thought you found it. And then you sit there and you're like, this isn't it. I've had a brutally hard week, man. Like my mom, we actually have a meeting today to find out how much longer she's going to be alive.
So sorry about that, Adam.
It's okay, man. I was driving home last night. Life's so finite and it's so special. And I was driving home last night and we found out from the doctor yesterday the progression of her cancer. And we found out that, and everybody's been really empathetic this week, which is great. And everybody's like, dude, take off. Don't do what you need to. And I was like, nah, like this is what my mom would want me to do. But we just got the news yesterday, basically the cancer, she has multiple different cancers in her body. And we've known it was coming. And I was driving home last night and I was just like, I was thinking like, what would I say at her funeral? And I start thinking back over just my mom and like what she's meant to me. And I think about what she's accomplished in life. And I think about her happiest moments, and it had nothing to do with outside things. It had nothing to do with what she had. It had to do with the relationships and like the relationship she had with God. And
Yes.
we go through life and we strive and we fight for all these things outside of ourselves that we think is grander. And life is just so precious. And when you start realizing that and you start hitting it and you start looking for that one person in the audience,
Yes.
and you just flip that switch, it
Yeah.
makes it to where it's just like, you start finding that purpose, and you don't
Yeah.
need the alcohol.
Yeah.
You don't need the distractions.
Right. Because alcohol, you're 100% right. And I feel like alcohol is a distraction. It's the easy way out, but it's an easy fix for the moment. It feels good. That's why you have to find something even better,
Right.
which is your why or your purpose or what
Right.
makes you tick. You have to find something that fires you up that says, why would I want to limit myself? Why would I not want to be the best version of myself if this is what truly makes me happy? If this is what truly is rewarding. It's better like alcohol is like short-term gratification.
Yeah.
But the long-term, the hard work is what really fills you with happiness and I
Yeah.
think joy. And you start to enjoy the journey more.
The journey. I love that, dude. Yeah. It's because ultimately, like, you got to enjoy the journey. The end's going to be here soon enough, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it could be as soon as I step out of this door. We might leave here today, and
Yeah.
that might be it.
Yep. Yep.
It's so finite, and it's easy going through life with all of these notions of what you should be and what success should be. And you have all these narratives from growing up and everything. And then you hit a point where it's, because when I look at you, okay, like us sitting here as human beings, I don't see this actor. I don't see this comedian. I don't see this entrepreneur. I don't see your money. I see an individual that has a heart,
soul
for other
presence.
people.
Yeah.
That's what I see. I don't care about your money. I don't care what's in your wallet sitting in this moment. I care about you as a person, and I care about how you've gotten here. I care about where you're going. I care about the impact. Like, I care about you, not what you have.
Well, same with you, brother. Yeah.
Well,
Because
thanks.
at the end of the day, it's, we act like a title or this or that separates us. We're all human beings. No matter what culture we're part of, no matter what our race is, at the end of the day, no matter what our religion is, we ultimately really have the same wants and needs and desires as human beings.
I completely agree. Yeah, you can fix that. Don't worry. Don't worry. Just here, just a little foot, just a little there. It's all good. We'll edit that out or we'll leave it.
Yeah.
So Alex, real quick, it's easy to like look at this moment and have these conversations. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's talk about Alex growing up, because dude, there's a lot of pressure. Like, if you're leading up to that moment and you've had these notions of what success is, there had to have been some narratives that were created from a young age that basically built up to that. Well, let's look at what was Alex like growing up? What was Alex like from age 1 to 10, for instance? That's synaptic pruning is a process where basically from age 1 to 12 up to 18, like you actually build a lot of your habits. So what was that habit building like growing up?
Sports was really a big part of my childhood. And I think that's what really gave me this competitive mindset, just drive to just succeed and help people, be a part of a team and kind of progress and move forward. The more that you're doing sports and you learn how to operate with others, I think that's when you really figure out that it's not about you. It's about others. And the more that you connect with others, and there's power in numbers, you can do greater things. You can make a bigger impact when you're a part of something bigger than yourself. And so sports was a big part of my childhood growing up. My dad would coach some of my, he coached my basketball team.
How old were you whenever you started playing sports?
Oh, probably I started golfing at 5 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was your dad a big golfer?
We love golf. Like, we just actually played at Cowboys a couple weeks ago in Dallas. So we don't always, with our busy schedules and we travel a lot, sometimes it gets harder and harder. So those moments are very special to me, to be able to just bond and connect with your father on a different level besides just business, on a more personal level. But yeah, growing up, we did a lot of golf. I played basketball, soccer. I wrestled, wrestling. And ran track, played football. So really did pretty much all the sports.
So is that what a lot of your childhood was, aged 1 to 10, was sports? Is that what you recollect a lot of?
Yeah. I was also very much of a free spirit too.
Right.
Like, getting into just going to the beat of my own drum. I remember like my family would have people come over and I don't know why I always wanted to be on the roof as a child. So I would open up the attic door and I would climb onto the roof, and my parents would be like, what is a 6-year-old doing up there on this roof? Get him down. I was just very adventurous, doing kind of some wild things. But yeah, and then I had 3 older sisters.
Oh, wow.
And I'm the only boy.
Oh, wow.
And we grew up I feel like we had a really good childhood, or I had a really good childhood, and I think my sisters did it as well. Like I mentioned, my mom and my dad we were lucky enough to do some traveling, and my dad coached a lot of our sports teams. I cherish those memories.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And then, I was just saying, but it wasn't always rainbows and sunshine. When I was about 12, my parents got divorced, and that was hard. And I think as I get older, I realized that it was probably tougher on me than I understood at that time. I thought oh, I'm not the only person that's gone through this. I'll get through this. You know what I mean? I'm Alex Coury. I can handle anything. And I still think sometimes it's something that why I think therapy is important, to understand your past, where you've been, where you are today, and how to move forward with resilience and fortitude, and not hold on to the past, but heal from it. And I feel hurt people.
Yeah.
And heal.
Man.
And the same thing is healed people heal people.
That's good too.
So that's why I feel like the more work I do on myself and understand what I've been through and own it, the more that you're able to help others, which is a big part of my purpose and my why. And then at 12, I went to military school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how fast? Hey, thanks for acknowledging that. There's a couple things. Like, number one, thanks for acknowledging the impact and the positives in your childhood. I think so many times, like, we look back at our childhoods and, like, dude, none of us had perfect childhoods. Like, none of us, right? Like, we all had hardships. Like, I grew up in a 2-family household. They were married their entire life, and I was literally a little shit. I'll say it.
Yeah.
I was like, I from a very young age. Now, the narrative that
I was a pit of what the Lebanese call pain in the ass.
yeah, yeah, I really was like growing up. Like, I had this false narrative from going to church from a very young age.
Yeah.
And I thought that I had to be perfect in order for myself to accept love.
Right.
And so from a very young age, I had this shame-based narrative, and it was this narrative of, oh my God, if I don't do everything perfect, I'm not going to be accepted. I'm not going to be loved. And so what did I do? I became a compulsive liar. And from a very young age, I lied. I was always an exaggerator, and I dragged that through a lot of my life. And I never really accepted who I truly was supposed to be until the past few years when I started this podcast, started going through therapy and stuff. And it's easy to look at that baggage. So I really appreciate you, regardless of the hardships that had to have gone into a parent separation at 12, because there had to have been a lot there. I appreciate you recognizing the positive whenever it came to this, because you have to recognize the positive whenever it comes to the hardships that you go through.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I wouldn't feel as comfortable I'm glad to be on this podcast with you. And I think vulnerability is stepping outside your comfort zone. Everybody's afraid to be vulnerable, but if you're not vulnerable, you literally can't put yourself in a position to be self-aware and to grow. You're going to put blinders on and say everything's fine. Some people go their whole lives just with those blinders on. I think never really working on themselves or acknowledging maybe their blind spots, or maybe the pain they've gone through. And it doesn't have to be a weakness. In fact, I think only the gentle are ever truly strong. So the more vulnerable you are, the strong. I think that the strength, you got to learn how to, you don't want to be emotional to the point where you've lost control,
right?
But you want to be in touch with your emotions. And so thank you for having me on this podcast, and thank you for carving the path for a lot of people to come on here and tell their real story. Because I'm glad to have this medium where I can be honest and talk about those things that have led me to who I am today. And I know that your story is a very powerful one as well, just because I love watching your podcasts.
Thanks, dude.
And it has inspired me a lot. And I know it's inspiring a lot of people. And I'm very moved and fired up when I watch the kind of how vulnerable you are and how honest you are with what you've gone through, the struggles, trials and tribulations. And then here we are today.
It's all God, dude. It's all God. It's all God. I give him all the glory, because literally he opened up. I had a point in my life to where finally I accepted the fact that I didn't have to be my false version. I didn't have to be my ego. I didn't have to have the outside things. And that's still a struggle every day.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. And I appreciate people coming on and being transparent. And speaking of which, so 12, so you end up going to military school. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that experience to 17, whenever you ended up moving to LA? What was that period? Because that had to have been hard. There had to have been a lot of internalization of why am I going to military school? There had to have been a lot of guilt, a lot of confusion, a lot of projection going on.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't really understand it at the time. I think I was maybe tried to be delusional about it to make it sound good. I think before I went, I was like, oh, this could be an exciting adventure. You know what I mean? I'll be able to have a saber and have these medals and these badges when I tried to see what could be exciting about it, but it was a rude reality check when I got there. I uh, I came in halfway through 7th grade, so everybody had already formed their cliques, and I was like the new guy. And I was also, like I mentioned, I went to the beat of my own drum. I was not a military structured kid, and I think that kind of caused me to stand out. And as my dad always said growing up, the nail that stands out gets hammered down. I think that's a quote from the Bible. And anyway, in this case, it was true. I remember like the first week I went there, I ended up, so there's taps where like you have to go to bed at a certain time, and it was just surreal. You got these military guys like who have been in the military, and now they're like the drill sergeants, and they're going through at night with flashlights, like looking in your room, and each room had a lock on it. You could get out, but it was probably for security because there's a lot of troublemakers in there. So your room is secured. You do usually have a roommate, but I remember the first week I got there, I thought I could beat the system and was like really clever. So I ended up putting pillows into my bed to look like I was in bed. So when they came through the flashlight, they would think I was there. And I snuck out and I tried to go knock on one of my friends' doors, and he wouldn't wake up because like we used to play like games together,
Right.
and I was like, oh, let's play some video. I don't know what I was thinking because like it's totally against the rules, and I ended up putting a bowl in the door to get outside of the barracks, which is like the building. So I put because the door locks automatically. So I was like, just in case I don't want to lock myself out. So I put this bowl there, and then I start knocking on this kid's window, and he's not waking up. He's just out. And I end up like taking his, like the screen off, like the window, and going into the window. I tried waking him up to play these video games, and he wouldn't wake up. And this guy was a deep sleeper. And then all of a sudden I start seeing flashlights going through the window, and like my heart starts to pound. So I get under the bed, and these 3 military guys who were like keeping a lookout, just watching everything at night, they ended up coming into the room because they saw that the window had been messed with. And they almost thought this guy had done something, and they realized this guy's out like a light. I'm under the bed looking at their 3 feet, like there's 3 people, they're just standing, and I'm like, oh my, I just felt like I was that close to getting caught. And they ended up leaving. I didn't get caught that night, but I had this roommate who was not the greatest. And I remember my loud mouth, I kind of like popped off and told him what I did. And then I remember at breakfast the next day, they were screaming like, put this ball in the door. This is a safety issue. Do this. And I was just like, I didn't say anything. And then my roommate ratted me out, and I got what's called X tours. So they put you in a field house for an infinite amount of time. It could be weeks, like all your free time, during your childhood, you literally they put football dummies on your back that you have to carry and run around the gym for hours, or you have to carry metal chairs, 5 stacked on each arm and running back and forth. It was miserable. Or they'd wake you up at 5 in the morning, and they would just have you do nose and toes, which is where you put your toes and your nose against a wall at attention, standing straight up for an hour, and it would just almost be nauseating.
Dude, that's for a 12-year-old, dude. That's traumatic.
Yeah, it was.
That's a lot. Dude, that's a lot of emotional. Dude, that's a lot.
I was begging my parents to take me back home. It was tough. There was more emotional abuse, I felt like, than physical abuse. Although one time I did get into an altercation with that roommate because like he was just keeping his like soiled underwear pushed under the bed. Like he would like hide all his clothes. It was so nasty. And I think one time I was like talking crap to him, and anyway, he ended up punching me in the mouth. I had just gotten my braces off, so my teeth were like fragile still, and 2 of my teeth went to the back of my mouth. And I remember my lip was split open. I went to the mirror and just saw that I had my teeth were pushed to the back of my mouth. I pulled them back down, and they had to take me to a dentist and kind of pull my teeth and glue them together. And that was it. It was surreal. I missed home, but I will tell you that it did set me up to be really resilient. I don't have any regrets in life. Everything has, I believe that there's a reason for everything.
I agree.
And that everything happens for a reason. And God was with me and helped me get through difficult, challenging times. But that was probably one of the hardest times in my life. I definitely missed home. I was like, why is this happening to me? Like, I didn't even do anything that bad to get there. I just felt like I was maybe a little bit of a rambunctious child. I feel like because of my family's situation, just being successful, I feel like maybe they looked at me like the spoiled little rich kid. And so I didn't really get a lot of leeway, or I feel like they were very quick to crack down and lay down the hammer. And, but I ended up, they were wondering if I was wanted to stay there. At the military school, I actually ended up doing pretty there despite missing home. Like, I made some of the best grades I've ever made, just mainly A's, a couple B's. And I joined the drill team, which is like where you spin the rifles and throw them and catch them. And that's where things turned around a little bit for me there. It was really fun. I remember I wanted to be a part of that drill team and they wouldn't let me. I just feel like they were not very supportive, or maybe they didn't trust me or want me to be on the drill team. But one day for Father's Day, my dad came out and we had a drill down, which is where they have the whole middle school, like over 200 kids. And they do like left shoulder arms, right shoulder arms, port arms, like basically all of the gun movements like that you have to do. And you do it in a formation. And if you mess up at all, like you're out. It's like a competition. And I won that competition. So like just one after another, like just a couple hundred kids ended up getting out. And I couldn't believe, I was super laser focused. And I remember when they told me that I had won, I just didn't even want to move, because I was like looking, wait, because I didn't want to mess up. And then they're like, no, you're good. And then, so the colonel of the school, the military school, and my dad and I took a photo, and it was in the newspaper. And after I won that drill down, which was a really proud moment for me that my dad was able to be there and see that, they let me onto the drill team, and things started to get a little bit better, but still just wanted to be home.
It's a lot of internalization.
And they asked me if I wanted to stay there, and I said no. I was ready to get back. So then I went to Bishop Kelly, which is where one of my sisters went to school there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so that was the start of high school. And high school, I went to the beat of my own drum too. So there was I regret, I stopped. I was very active in sports, and I wasn't as active in high school. And I looking back, I think that might have been helpful, but I didn't have I didn't feel like I was as connected with my family as like my dad having coached my teams and everything. I think at that point we had a lot going on with the family divorce, and I think everybody did, including my parents. In fact, sometimes I'm glad that everything has led me to who I am today, and I'm proud of that. But I think at that time, even when they sent me to military school, I think they were in a confused place too. They were going through a lot too. I think it might have been, I'm sure that as parents do with what they know, they just want the best for their kids.
Did the best they could with the tools they were given.
They did the best they could with the tools they were given. Sometimes I think it may have been easier to just let somebody else deal with, I guess, me at that time.
Dude, I will say in relation to that, my mom used to pray. I was speaking of my mom getting close. My mom used to pray a prayer for me that I didn't know she prayed until years later. And that prayer was, God, if my kids are doing something they're not supposed to be doing that's going to harm them in the long term, I want them to get caught now.
Oh, yeah.
And when she told me that at first, I was like,
yeah, dang.
Oh, like, dude, harsh. But like, in reflection, like, how hard is that for a parent to pray that prayer? How hard was it probably on your dad to send you to military school?
Yeah.
Like, those are all hard things for parents to do, like being a parent, but that doesn't change what you're experiencing as a childhood and all of these internalizations. And dude, that's really, thank you for being vulnerable in relation to that time period. I will tell you, we got like 10 minutes left. So I want to move into the transition from 17 until like you moved to LA.
Yeah.
To that moment to where you ended up hitting this transformation. What was that like moving to LA? What made you decide to want to move out there?
So I actually had senioritis, and I really wanted to just start my own path. I felt a little misunderstood in high school, and I was probably going through similar angst, not realizing that I hadn't fully healed probably from the divorce and things like that. And I don't think I had anybody, no teacher in a movie that you see that really just extended their hand out to you and asked if everything was okay, what you're really going through. And so I just knew that I felt destined for bigger things. And I knew that I had these goals. I wanted to be an actor, and I've always been just infatuated with California. I always wanted to go out there. And my sister went to the University of San Diego, and so I used to visit her a couple times when she was in college for spring break one time, and I just fell in love with the weather and the beach and the palm trees. But more so, I just wanted to go after my dreams and chase my passion. And so I actually ended up finishing high school online. I left at 17, finished high school online, and but I went through some interesting things that really helped put me in this position too, that really helped me brought self-awareness to me and accountability, which I think are huge. And so before I went to film school, but before I did that, I was moving out to California at a very young age. So my parents were like, I guess I wanted to make sure that I was on the right track. So I went to this kind of independent living program where they teach young adults like steps of just adulthood. And I think more so for my parents, they just wanted to maybe keep an extra eye on me before they just unleashed me at 17 to LA, to California, which I can understand that. But there was people there for multiple different reasons, but it was a sober living program. And I thought at the time I was a little bit more rambunctious, and I found it looked very relaxed for a program at first. Like I saw some people who would be smoking pot here and there and doing some different things. Even worse than that, they started cracking down right when I got there. Of course, the timing is always interesting for me, but I ended up getting on staff supervision because they caught me smoking weed like the first week. And then so once I got on staff supervision, I was confined to my apartment for a couple weeks, I think it was. And I had just turned 18 after moving out there. So I was like really wanting to be free and just explore California. But anyway, long story short, I ended up getting an airsoft gun because some guy from Boston came into my apartment and started shooting a pellet gun out the window because we were bored. We had nothing else to do. And I thought it was just made the time pass and stuff. And I figured he didn't get in any trouble when he got caught. So I thought an airsoft gun would be no big deal. But I did end up getting in trouble with that airsoft gun. And yeah, it's a little plastic BB that doesn't do anything, but I ended up shooting at drain pipes, shooting at trash cans, and one bounced back and hit this car, and it doesn't do any damage, but this military lieutenant gets out and just halts the car and gets out, and he's a Marine, and I'm freaking out. He's like looking all around trying to figure out what's going on, and so he calls security. They're looking at lights. I thought I was like a goner for sure, so I ended up thinking maybe it'd be best, having gone to military school, I just take accountability. So I go down there and I say, "Sir, it was me." And he's like, "What? What's a 5-year imprisonment to shoot at a military lieutenant?" And I just thought my life was over. When they ended up calling the police, and they put me in the back of the car, and I'm at this program, and the whole program is like looking at me, and I'm just like, how is this my life right now? Like again, I'm playing with an airsoft gun. Like, it's not that, but it's California. The laws are different. You got to know your territory and know where you're at. And so anyway, in order to come back to that program, I went to the woods for like 76 days. And I thought it was going to be like an outward bound program for like a month where we'd be like whitewater rafting and mountaineering and stuff like camp, which like I thought it was going to be awesome. But it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. The first week I was there, it snowed up to my belly button. Like it was like in a blizzard. You're hiking mountains. You're literally creating fire you're busting fires with like sticks and a bow. So you're making your own fires and you're cooking your own food, and they don't give you a wash. They strip you away from everything so that you can be truly present. And I did a lot of journaling, and eventually when I was first there again, I was like, I'm Alex Coury. This is just an accident that I'm even here. I'll just get through this. And there was people, like, to be honest, there with a lot worse issues. But I think at that time I was probably where I needed to be, and I didn't see it at the time. But the more that I just relaxed into the program and just tried to enjoy it, there's actually things like I would see 3 or 4 shooting stars a night, and it really made you just really present. And in fact, when I finally got out of the program and got back to civilization, you almost have this culture shock when you see buses going by and people like,
Right.
You're not used to that. You've been in the woods, just isolated from people. So that was interesting, but I do think it taught me accountability and self-awareness, and it was a therapeutic group. You always have like therapy in those groups. So it really taught me tools that I still use today and go through life with.
Yeah, it springboarded you into that like time period between entering Hollywood to your moment in 2022.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful, man. We could go into probably everything that happened whenever you moved to Hollywood and the hardships and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. But just hearing your childhood and hearing the amount that you went through there and the amount of preparation, and then you go to Hollywood, and I'm sure there was a lot of like you wanting to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, dude, I look at your childhood and there's a lot of moments in your childhood just from military school to like going to that program where there's a large feeling for you to have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that it's beautiful that even though that's a chaotic environment to grow up with, a lot of structure, but still a lot of like chaos in the same regard. Like the fact that you ended up hitting a point and you recognized in 2022 that through being in Hollywood and going through all of this, that like you really wanted to pursue more purpose.
Absolutely.
Is just so beautiful.
Yeah. I think everything that I've gone through gave me the tools to recognize when you're in a rut or something isn't going right. And you, instead of complaining, I think the most important thing in life is to never complain. If it's outside of your control, then don't waste the time and the energy like thinking about it. There's this great Chinese proverb that says, the man who blames other people is very far away. The man who blames himself is halfway there. And the man who blames nobody has already made it. And so it's easier said than done. A lot of times I like to talk about these things because as much as I want to help other people, I'm reminding myself too. I'm helping myself as well. But that's why in those moments, you got to really take ownership and accountability. And the quicker that you look in the mirror and you assess yourself and you realize, what am I doing? What can I change? Because change starts from within.
I love that, dude. This is so good. Alex, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I want to have you on again. This could have been a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Realistically, if you know all the details, we might make a second version of this to talk about Hollywood and all the intricacies. The beautiful takeaway I have in relation to the topic, which is unpacking how adversity strengthens characters, dude. Just from a young childhood, you went through a lot of adversity. You took a lot of risks. You moved to California, went into the acting thing. You could have just stayed in hospitality.
Yeah.
And you could have taken the easy route.
Yeah.
But you chose to go put yourself in a vulnerable position and pursue something that you knew you had a calling. And even though the way that you described it, you went through a lot of ups and downs during that career and going into what was the school called again? The Gamblings. The Gouldings, what is it called?
Oh, the Groundlings.
The Groundlings. Yeah, sorry. I can't read my own writing.
Yeah, the Groundlings.
Like going through all of that, like you've handled a lot that you didn't have to put yourself through.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your dad is so proud
Oh, dang.
about like what you've gone through and where you've come from.
Yeah, I again, I think anything worth doing in life is gonna be hard.
Yeah.
That's what makes it great, and I don't wanna just ride other people's coattails. I have my own purpose, my own path, and the things that I wanna bring into this world, and I'm just this adversity builds character, and I wouldn't be who I am today and where I'm at. I wouldn't be able to juggle all the stress and do all the different entrepreneurial things that I'm doing if I hadn't been if I hadn't gone through those situations and been given the tools to self-regulate and continue to stay focused and believing in myself.
I love that, dude. So the last two questions of the podcast.
Yeah.
Number one, if there's a book you were going to recommend, what would that book be and why?
Oh, there's a lot of books that I recommend that's actually on my channel or on my link tree on my Instagram, but the number one,
Sure.
okay, but
Sure.
the number one that I like to reread once a year if possible is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I just recommended that to someone today.
It's so powerful,
Yeah.
and it talks about similar like never complaining, but don't criticize others. You know what I mean? You got to find a way to really inspire people and connect with them and lift them up. And that is probably a book that I think has helped me succeed in business and just connect with people. I think connection is so important. And especially when you're working in different facets and different areas in life, and you want to you want to grow with other people. So I think this book helps you figure out how to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Dale Carnegie. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Second question, if there's one person that you could say is a role model or inspiration in your life, who would that person be and why?
My father, good and bad, but mainly good. He's very disciplined, and I've always looked up to him. Like I've always wanted to work with him. So I'm very blessed that I get to be a part of this family company and get to help grow this business with him. He was a marathon runner. So he's run like 13 marathons. I ran my first marathon last year.
Wow.
And it was always on my bucket list. And I think because of him, it's always been on my radar. I've always been inspired by that. And the way that he operates, and he's not afraid of failure, which I think you got to be able to fail in order to succeed. You got to be comfortable with that. You got to step outside your comfort zone. And he's always found ways to continue to push the envelope and become better, even when in business, if his back's ever been against the wall. He's very creative and he's great with people. And I know that nobody's perfect, but I believe that he does the best that he can to help not just his family, but the people around him and the people in the company grow and find out really enjoy, like, find their purpose and meaning in life. And yeah, I think the kind of business mindset that he has, I think is a big part of why I'm so hungry in different aspects and wanting to started my own business. And also as a kid, he used to do impressions. And so I do a lot of impressions, a lot like celebrities and just characters and things like that. But I remember like he would always do some voices growing up with me. And I think that kind of probably is a part of what inspired me.
I love that, dude. That's so cool. So in 30 seconds,
Yeah.
if you were going to look to the camera
Uh-huh.
and tell someone how adversity strengthens character,
Mhm.
tell them how exactly adversity strengthens character.
Sure. We've talked a lot about it today, but I believe that when you have your feet to the fire, you're only given one option, which is like sink or swim. And so when you start to swim, you start strengthening all of your different muscles, your ability to endure different challenges in life and hurdles that you may have faced. So the more that you continue to put yourself out there and be vulnerable and not be afraid of failure, you're going to connect with more people. You're going to learn more about yourself and others. You're going to become wiser. I think all of the dots are going to start connecting for you eventually. Sometimes it takes time. Everybody's path is different. Sometimes it happens faster or slower for certain people, but we're all where we're supposed to be. And I think if you trust yourself and trust God that everything is meant to happen for a reason, and to just find the light at the end of the tunnel, because there's always hope. There's always light. And I think that the more that you've gone through, the more adversity and challenges you have to overcome, you're going to realize that you can get through this too. This too shall pass. And I would just say, keep moving forward, trust yourself, trust God. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because that's not a weakness. That's actually a strength, that you're willing to be self-aware and get support. And then once you have healed and you work on healing yourself, you can heal others. So it's going to not only help you be more successful and be the person you want to be, but you're going to be able to help others by putting yourself in a position where they can relate to you and realizing that they're not alone. None of us are alone. We all have challenges that are unique to us, but at the end of the day, there are people out there, are still human beings going through similar situations. So I would just say it gives you a tough skin, and life is hard. Life is you're going to lose a mother, you're going to lose a father, you're going to lose your pets, you're going to lose loved ones, you're going to lose money in life. And these things are going to happen. And it's really about like, we can't just expect to walk across the street without fear of anything happening to us in this world. That's why if you mentally prepare yourself and physically prepare yourself, you can get through anything. You can overcome it. You can prepare yourself for the challenges that are ultimately going to be thrown on you. Just by being human is hard. And so when you have the right mindset and you realize that this is just making you stronger and more equipped to handle the unexpected in life, then you can help yourself and help others through that adversity.
I love that, dude. Thank you so much, man.
Thank
you
you
for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for
It's been fun.
It was a good
Yeah.
time, man. Like I said, we probably go for a couple hours, but for everybody's listening's sake, maybe we'll do a part 2.
Okay. I look forward to it, Adam. Thanks for having me. And you've been a great inspiration to me. And I appreciate you giving me this platform to tell my story.
Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Till next time on the Backpack Theory podcast, Adam, thanks for tuning in.